and Danny Chick, plus Chris Anderson, whichever one happens to show up.
Breaking news, Muscatine is still standing, and 2 chicks and a Chris are here to talk about it.
It's 2 Chicks and a Chris, part of Discover Muscatine. Now here's Brian.
Anybody know where Brian's at?
Where's your brother now?
I don't know. Where's Brian at today?
Is he still in Wisconsin? We're going to have to do this without him.
He might still be at work. I'm still waiting for him. I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard from him.
I guarantee you he's...
That's a good point. We know he's not at work.
Whoa. Hey, I was stuck in the roundabout. I couldn't get out.
You couldn't get out of the roundabout?
Couldn't get out.
I heard there was a car over there on its roof or something.
Yeah, there was a car over there, and I just kept looking. Hello, Muscatine, and welcome to this week's episode of 2 Chicks and a Chris on the Muscatine Today Show. We have a great show. If you can get out of the roundabout today, we have Chris, Danny, Mr. Paul Carroll, Brian. The other Chris just took off.
He literally just walks out the door. Like we started recording, he just like disappears. It's uncanny how he's able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, is this cigarette time or what's going on, Chris?
It's like the other Chris here. I got him paint the building. I'll show up there. No Chris.
No paint.
But it magically all gets done. Like that's the weird.
Are you
part.
helping him?
Give her.
Is that why we started? Why we started 11 minutes late today?
No, we started. I don't know. We started. Honestly, I don't know.
I'm excited for Chris. He's got the back of the green building up on 2nd Street painted. It's looking really good.
I'm excited. The back first for the surprise coming around.
Yeah, we're gonna surprise people as we move around.
What color is it? We have to wait.
We gotta wait. Surprise. 903
East 2nd getting a facelift.
But I'm excited for him to get it done because as soon as he gets it done, our next vision with the Merle with the 250th.
You putting a Merle on the green building?
No, not on the green building. We're putting that up.
Why not?
Next to our.
Do you not believe in public art?
Yeah,
I believe you should have. I think it should have.
We're not putting it on.
Hey, Paul Carroll, could you help get us a plan for a mural on the green building?
I bet we could.
Because you've done everything else in town.
We'll talk about
there we go.
Mad Creek floods.
Mad Creek flood. It'd be the flood of the building.
Dude, you can make it look like it's underwater. Like
that. There you go. That might be good. Yeah. But as soon as we're done with that, we're gonna get going on our plan for the American flag and the 250th birthday.
Maybe we could put a QR code on it for people going across the river to ask them why you don't live in Muscatine to help your housing.
There you go.
QR code. Why do you not live in Muscatine?
There you go. That'd be great.
Off the bridge.
I am never.
Can you make QR codes on buildings, Chris?
Yeah, we could. Yeah, you could.
Anyway,
if you couldn't paint it, we could vinyl. Worst case. Like worst case.
Would that help your survey? We get 3,000 more people.
Maybe 30 more. We'll work on it.
Okay.
Take some time.
We're there.
Why don't they just let me answer it and be done?
Be happy with what we got right now?
No, just let me answer the survey once and just call that good. That's all you need to know.
Done.
I don't
know. Again, we're gonna start a counter for Chris. We have to do this now.
QR code.
We're gonna do a counter that every time Danny says I'm right.
Ooh, can we get that rolling on the bottom?
I know, yeah, because like that thing's gonna be like
only as long as we've got the ones where I'm saying you're wrong. If we can keep track of
that like literally never happens.
It'd be like bars.
I would actually like to take 1 second, and I usually don't. I'm gonna go off our normal fun 30 seconds. I don't usually talk a lot about my family and stuff on the air, but I do want to take a moment to thank everybody. You know, Brian.
Oh, okay.
Today and Paul, and actually, Paul will remember some of this. Today, the day we're recording this, which is Wednesday the 16th, would have been our daughter Ainsley's 18th.
Wow.
And you know, it was a crazy adventure. And I just wanted to take this moment to thank all the people that were around us for that entire time, the hospital, the AEA, the schools, like everybody, because we couldn't have done it without you. And today's one of those days that we remember that. And so I just want to take a second to say thank you to everybody.
So, thank you. Great story. Didn't mean to go to sleep on you. That's great.
No, I didn't want.
Nope.
It's a funky topic to talk about sometimes, but I did want to take the opportunity to say thank you.
Nope. What is going on in the county today? I heard a little bit you bucked the system again. You give 25% raises out.
No.
What? How much money did we lose today on taxes?
No,
Or Monday?
We had to finalize the budget this Monday. Of course, everybody, we had plenty of conversations about that, and I voted against it because of I thought the 4.2% increase on our budget was a little bit much, so I voted against that. And there was we also each year we increase the elected officials' wages, and
Did you get a raise?
I didn't last year. The supervisors was zero. All the other elected officials got a raise. We're out of 99 counties. We're in the 90s, or we're around the 90th lowest wage for supervisors out of the whole state. So,
But you give everybody else a huge raise.
so last year the supervisors took a zero raise. This year we took a 3%. I wanted the 3% across the board. There were some recommendations for the sheriff to go to 4%, and the treasurer and the auditor to go to 3.5%, and keep the recorder at 3%. So I wanted the flat 3%, so I voted against that. And then there was a request for an employee to be moved up some grades in her step, but it was going to be a 15% raise, and they wanted to move her up 2 grades, and I thought that was a little bit much at one jump, because we've had a lot of increases here this year. So
Did she get it?
she won. I lost all these votes for her.
Okay, that's
right,
what
but
we
here's
want
the
to
real
hear.
question, and this is an honest question about like how you guys think about some of this stuff. And because I was actually having this conversation with my wife as well. When you look at raises, like the annual raise function, there's what I consider like an adjustment, like a COLA, right? Where it's, that's that 2 to 3% kind of a matching inflation or whatever. Which obviously we're not going to keep up with inflation now, and then there's like merit-based raises. So like if somebody's going to go up 2 levels, right? Would that be because they're now doing more? Like, have they taken on more responsibility? So you're legitimately moving them up to pay grades because of what they're doing, or did they want to just move them up 2 to get them 15%? Like
that's a great question. And what it is supposed to be. So there's some steps and grades,
right,
that the steps you get increased throughout the county. I'm not a fan of any of them. We can go into that a little bit, but the grade is supposed to be on your extra responsibilities that you're taking on, and there's each position has a description of what those roles are. And this gal has, over the last year, the gal I'm referring to here, she has, and now that Nancy Schreiber is retired, and God rest her soul, our administrator died last week. Nancy passed away. So that was a bad thing. She'd been in the county for 35 years. So we're reformatting the whole operations of replacing her, because she took on so much, and splitting up those responsibilities. And then Melissa has taken on some of these responsibilities, and I appreciate what she's done. I just thought that the two grade increase was probably at 15% at one time. I thought was a little bit too much. Probably would have supported a 1 grade increase, maybe a 6-7% raise, because she has taken on.
Gotcha.
I just thought it was too much too quick.
Okay, and that's just one thing. We try and get a little bit behind the curtain, right? Because it's really easy to say something. Oh, they need a raise, or they don't need a raise, or it's really abstract when you're just talking numbers and not thinking about what people are actually doing.
The complicated part is you got to figure out the cost to the county, and we're going through 4 union negotiations right now. And there's a step and a grade. I'm against the step and the grade 100%. I think each job qualification should have, like when you worked at GBC, you had a 1 job, a 2 job, a 3 job, an all job, a foreman. And I think that the county should be similar to that. And when you get to that step, you get your raise increase. Well, because now in seniority, you get that increase when you hit a certain time, and then you can tap out and you're at the end. So when we give a 3% raise, like if we give a 3% raise, well, now they get their grade and step, which is another 1.5%, 1.4. So now at a 3% raise, you're getting a 4.5% raise. And then you got to figure in that as the cost of the county. That gets real expensive. Now, if you made $100,000 and I was going to give you a 3% raise, I'm going to increase your W-2 $3,000. It's not that simple with the county because of the steps and the grades. And I would like to scrap it all, because then when I give a guy a 3% raise, I can do the math. I made $50,000. That's a $1,500.
Yes, because we've established
that's a
math skills
$1,500 raise. Now the guy goes to 51,500. You know, the math is simple, but now you take in the step and grade, and then they get a big raise, and so essentially you'd have to give them a 1% or 1.5% raise to get them at the 3% cost of the county. And although everybody bitches about their taxes going up, including the county employees, they want big raises.
And that's the tough
Big
part.
raises make a difference.
And that's the one thing.
It's 70-80% of our budget, 75% of our budget.
Right. And that's a very good point. Is in the county, it's 75% of the budget, and it's got to come from somewhere, right? Like you can't on one hand, and I know this is oversimplifying, you can't on one hand say, I want to give everybody big raises, but I'm not willing for my tax bill to go up. Like you just, because
you can't have both.
You're right. You can't have both. And there's not enough other stuff to cut to make that work. So,
right.
You know,
we do, you know, I'm all about paying people fair raises and making sure that we're comparable to the comparable counties and stuff like that. But it gets really, that was a Jeff Sorensen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that was Jeff.
County supervisor just talked about.
Tell them, come on in. We need to discuss the
we
raises.
need one of the good ones. See, what I think we should do with the board of supervisors, this is just my thought. I think rather than paying them like as a group, you know, like you're all the same, I think what we should do is get to vote for their pay. Right?
They get a percentage of the savings.
I like it, like some sort of incentivized thing. So,
Yeah.
like, here's
Make
the
them
thing:
work
like,
for us.
we could pay like Mather and Sorensen and those guys like $200,000-300,000 a year because we give Danny nothing, and it'll work. We'll be balanced. We'll be set.
Yeah.
Look at that grade.
Boom.
Yeah, I don't think he likes
But,
that.
like-
Paul, what do you think? Does that sound right?
Like if you have 5 supervisors, how many are there? 4 or 5? What do you get?
Do
5.
we even need 5?
No, 3. You just
3.
need 3. You take 3 of them, you put it all up against them. It'd be like, you have $1 million. What you save of that $1 million, break it up into 3.
Here, you know what else we could do? You remember the movie Dark Knight where the Joker just like there's 2 guys that want one slot on his team and they fight for it. Whichever one survives gets it. We could do that with the supervisors. Go from 5 to 3. See what happens.
Some counties have 3. There's too many. One of the challenges with 3 is we've got 30 boards and commissions. We're lucky we can split it up with 5 supervisors.
Put the other 2 on
It's
boards
6
and
to
commissions.
10. That's not that bad. It's 4.
3.
It's only a difference of 4.
It's a lot of time.
It's 1 a week.
Hey, you guys make up boards.
Okay.
What?
Yeah. Okay, let's go around the camp. Let's go around the community. What's going on with Mexico Local? They've had the sign up at the old on Grandview Avenue.
Our day's going to open in March, but I don't know.
The sign's been up since last March. Where does the excitement lose? Where do you lose the excitement? Are you going to try Mexico Local?
I'm going to go there if they ever open. I want a taco, but they ain't open yet.
Well, I thought that when the sign come up, we're eating like in a week.
I got excited when I seen the sign. I was ready to
Yeah,
go.
everybody's talking about it. I pulled in the drive-thru twice. They're still painting. So,
Paul, are you regretting coming down yet?
I'm learning a lot.
and the old Taco John's, I think Guadalajara bought it. We got painted black. We'd start tearing them buildings down. We talked about this one other time. Come and Go, Mexico Loco, the old Taco John's.
No, they either got to tear them down or refurbish them and get them opened up and going.
Yeah, ghost town.
Because it kind of looks like the south side of Chicago in some of those areas.
Ooh, we're back into south side of Chicago with the big guns.
Hey, well, you know, I mean, Capone's is right across the street. Shameless plug.
Yeah. Easter's coming up. What is your Easter celebrations anymore? Do you still do the big old
We don't
ham
do much
dinner and
anymore.
Easter egg hunt?
I told Sheila the other day, because we've been working around the farm and building fence. I said, I really don't want to do anything for Easter because we're going to be tied up all day and we got a lot of work to get done. So I said, so then Sheila called my daughter and said, no Easter. And now Kayla's mad at me. And
You know what I did? L&M Student Council, $30. They hide 50 eggs in your yard.
Really?
Boom.
That's
done.
cheap. So we do. So it's kind of funny. So Wyatt is the youngest of the grandkids on, he's the only one side. On the other side, he's the youngest at 13. So I'll say this, Melissa's mom has always done, she's like the over the top holiday lady. Like for the longest time, she had a goose on her front porch that changed clothes based on the holiday season. Right. So she's always done like the big Easter egg hunt for all the kids and stuff, and it's slowly creeping down. One's in college, one's in high school, and one's in 7th grade. So I'm sure there'll still be like a mini Easter egg hunt and like backyard shenanigans, but nothing crazy.
You think the excitement's kind of
It's-
lower,
it
or
has
maybe
for me
because
when I
we're
got
older?
and the kids are all grown, and still there ain't much excitement around our place anymore for Easter like there used to be.
If
I
we
like
had
eating.
lawn darts, though,
Lawn
I'd be out
darts.
there.
They are talking on the federal level. I read yesterday that they're talking about Easter Monday. I guess there's about a month and a half or 2-month period between federal holidays. So there's talk about making the following Monday after Easter, which Easter falls within a 6-week period usually,
Right.
to make that a federal holiday.
Why don't they just give you a Good Friday off?
Yeah, just give you Friday.
God.
Yeah, we want we want to be last day Thursday. We don't want to
What,
have
Brian? What do you
Monday
care?
off.
What do you care? The bank's not open anyway.
They're open on Good Friday.
I know, but you get so many other holidays. Like
I know. I get a lot. Well, like the first holiday I had off, I went to work with him. I'm just not used to this yet. But
He was bored. He came to work.
it does take 2
I'm gonna
chicks.
start. I'm not painting with Chris.
How many
though.
chicks does it take to run down Muscatine Downtown Investors? At least 2,
Yeah,
or
it
however many.
It did that day.
How many holidays you get off?
I'll take as many. I'll take them off if I want them off.
What's
You
a holiday?
take 'em?
On
Sure.
that note,
Anyway, Paul, thank you for coming to the show. We appreciate your time.
Glad to be here.
You got a big event coming up the 26th, which is his birthday. There's no reason why he shouldn't be there.
Well, he just needs to take time and come walk along the river.
Yeah, tell us about the Earth Day celebration at Fairport Fish Hatchery.
Okay, so I about 4 years ago we formed a friends group to tell more of the history and the modern stories out at the fish hatchery. And so we spent a couple $100,000 on infrastructure for trails and interpretive things. And the last 2 years we've done an Earth Day, and so it'll be kind of like a little environmental fair. And we'll give people updates on what we want to do at the hatchery. And then we just want you to get out and enjoy a walk along the river and learn a little more history that you may not have known.
What kind of activities is there for kids or adults? Or
Well, really, you want to
that?
just there's educational opportunities for any age. So if the kids want to learn about modern fish production, you walk them down along the ponds. There is actually, they're producing the fertilizing the eggs and moving them into the bigger things right now for the walleye, and so that's actually in action. They usually go down and harvest some fish, and so there'll be an aquarium with all the river fish in it, probably 10 different species. So it's really something for everybody. They do a short program, but then you just get to talk to other people that are doing environmental education and work. And we do it in the research building, but you're free to just come and go and just make it a family day or a learning day.
So it starts a little bit of the history out there. I mean, there used to be, I heard always a rumor there was like a concentration camp in World War II.
Yeah.
Some Japanese.
That's just an ancillary story, and we tell that story. The real history that people don't know is when the wealthy button people, by 1900, they were harvesting so many mussel shells that they knew they were already going to run out of shells in Fleet River. So they actually, the rich button people, bought 60 acres and then worked with the federal legislature to start the first USDA research site to see if they could propagate mussels. And that research went on for about 30 years. 2 of the top biologists in the world, river biologists, worked in Muscatine. And so we tell that story. It was an uphill battle. River pollution, the locking dams. They couldn't produce the host fish that the mussels needed to propagate. So then it transitioned into a state fish hatchery, and that's what you see ongoing.
So on the 26th, back when I was a kid, and I used to always outfish him. Can he fish to try to catch more than me that day, or in the hatchery? Because that's probably the only way he can catch fish.
No, there's no fishing out of the ponds.
but he'll be able to at Weed Park.
Yeah, I mean,
If you do it at night and don't tell anybody, is there
Well, you can walk down to the riverbank and do whatever you want to do. We don't say you can't fish off the bank. But one of the things that will be coming up is behind the research building. Excuse me. There's a pond that they raise fish in for research, and our goal is to make that a year-round pond where, and we'll build an outdoor classroom platform over the top of it, and kids can feed the fish and use a dip net. And the 7 or 8 types of game fish that they actually propagate there will be there year-round.
So are you familiar with all the different game fish that they
Oh yeah,
breed out there? Is it all the typical ones? Because
yeah.
I've been to, whether I've been to Manchester where they've done trout, or been to Lake Rathrum where they do about everything. It's much bigger.
Yeah.
And this one seems a little smaller, but they do pretty much all the game fish.
But it's the game fish you'd expect: catfish, walleye, crappie. Lake Rathrum wanted more paddlefish, so they grew some paddlefish for them. That was a new one out there. But they're flexible enough to do that. They do have some infrastructure problems right now that we got to invest some money in, because they're getting contamination with the silver carp. And so they're going to limit some of the fish they do, because the last thing you want to get fish contamination and then distribute those.
Do you know where, do they just distribute these fish mostly to Iowa lakes?
Yeah. And they work with other fisheries and help move fish all over that. So there's about 6 hatcheries, I think.
So you said you can't fish in it, obviously, right? But can you noodle it? Because I could see him
I seen it
going down
noodle.
and trying to like catfish noodle
Yeah.
Well,
down there.
currently right now, catfish noodling, which is astonishing to me, is against the law. But here shortly, maybe July 1st, they're working on a bill in Iowa that now you can catch catfish.
I was hoping you were going to pick up on it. Yeah, it's
So
if somebody
have
wants to
you
be
ever-
dumb enough to stick their hand
Yeah.
in the mouth of a catfish, I say let 'em.
have you ever
that's what I
noodled?
say. No, I've not in a real river.
How do you think he got his
situation,
haircut?
No. But I seen a video online the other day, and they got a tank. It's a tank about head tall, and it was showing a gal, but down at the bottom there was a little glass tank, and they pulled the board out of the front so you could go down and actually noodle a flathead.
Wow.
And she dove down. You used to have to dove down about 3 feet, and you go in there, and as soon as you reach your hand, that flathead will grab your hand like it's a bluegill or a bait fish. And that would be a scary.
I'm out.
That grab would
I would
be
think
scary.
so.
I'm out.
But I mean, I grab big. I don't noodle, but we run lines and we catch those
Have
big
they grabbed you?
flathead. Yeah, they'd grab me. But when I can see their mouth and they bite me, and if they twist on you, they can get you, and they could even break your arm. But I've had them bite me, but I know it's coming. If I was underwater and that happened, I don't think I'd have enough courage to keep my hand there.
You wouldn't know what bit you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's snapping
I'm
turtle
out.
or what.
I'm not noodling.
But I've had a lot of them get you. I mean, they've got me.
What's the advantage to noodling versus hooking?
I think it's just a challenge, like many things. I think it's like whether you shoot a deer with a shotgun or you go out with a bow. It's much more challenging.
Why don't they try getting a deer with their fist like that? See how that goes?
Noodle a deer.
noodle a deer? Well,
Yeah.
I think
See, Paul, this is the amazing conversation that you miss when you're
Yeah.
not down here on Wednesday
Yeah.
night.
I have seen people catch deer on video.
Well, you hear those stories of them jumping out of the tree and riding them.
Yeah,
Oh my. Okay. So, Paul, I think you're one of those people in town that everybody knows, but nobody knows, right?
Yep.
And what I mean by that is you've been a part of just about, I don't want to say every project in Muscatine, but
Plenty.
a ton. I mean, like you and I first met on the board of Flickinger Learning Center.
Right.
It would have been, let's call it 18 years ago, because I think
Yeah.
Ainsley had just been born
Yeah.
when I went onto the board down.
Yep.
And that was a blast because we saw that through, you guys, when there was a group of us like Tony, Joseph, Dan Stein,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
all kind of came on because you guys had launched the thing.
Yep.
And you
On a
guys
shoestring.
I don't even think you had a shoestring. I think
Yep.
they had,
Yep.
that little nib at the end of a shoestring that has like the plastic on
plastic?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they started with, right?
Yeah.
And you worked with Dick McLean and you got the building kind of set up and it started off as just a safe place. And
Yeah.
you guys did such a great job with that. And then
It
like,
caught people's interest. So then Marty Carver said, well, let's take it to the next level. And Dan Howe and that Muscatine Connect started investing. That gets you United Way money.
Yep.
And so it's done an amazing thing.
I've told Shane, so I've been on the last couple rounds, I've been on the granting committee, that evaluates. And I remind him, like, now it's all computerized and it takes like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I remember that first one we did, it was like, you had to make 18 copies of it, I think it was. And I seriously think each packet had to be almost an inch tall, like for our grant. It was crazy. But that was a cool thing that you guys just sort of did. And you had Diamond Towns. Like, what all have you like? And well, now, I know we can't go too far down into all these, but like quick broad stroke.
Well, first start with my motivation. So I actually was raised on a farm in Louisa County, but that's because the Carrolls lost land during the Depression south of Wilton. And so my family goes way back. The Plessis farmsteaded in the 1840s. They came from France through Louisiana. The Dales came in the 1870s. Grandma Carroll was a latecomer. She was from Illinois and didn't get here till the 1910s. So the branches of my family have been here forever. And so I love local history because every time you turn over a rock, you find another relative. You know, you go into a yearbook from 1910 and one of the Dales that came, he was on the city council. I'd never known that. So, you know, it's just fun to find those things. But what I've found is people don't connect the story and how the community evolved with those early leaders. And I want those stories not in the archives, the basement of the library. I want them out. And you talk about murals. I love telling a story in a mural. But I also want to write a book on our entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs, our history of entrepreneurship is amazing.
It's unmatched.
We're blessed in Muscatine.
And it's bigger than that, though. My Uncle Bill, so if you think about where Hawkeye Lumber was by the High Bridge, so my Uncle Bill was raised up on Smalley and Park Avenue, and as a teenager, he worked for Cook and Musser. It was a box company, and, you know, they just didn't get paid anything. But what's Uncle Bill's legacy in the bigger picture? Well, that Musser family made some money in the lumber business. The one that was the wannabe farmer out on where the dog kennels there, out on, they had a big Hereford operation. He gave a dozen farms to Iowa State, and that money still puts kids through ag school. That's Uncle Bill's legacy. I want our students to understand that connection. So that's my motivation. So when a project comes along, I think, well, do I have something to offer for it? And sometimes I do. So particularly with fundraising, because again, our entrepreneurs want their money to do good.
Yeah,
I can tell you story after story.
We talk about that a lot, but I mean, whether it's the Carvers or the Howes or the Kents, and there's others, we're lucky to have them in the community because they continue to help.
And so one of my biggest prides is the ag center. So I started as an ag teacher, but then I came here and was working for Farm Bureau and church. I didn't stay and teach. But everybody says, you got to go meet that Fowler. Because he was, you know, and Tomatich was on board by then. And Fowler's vision was, we're going to have farm kids there. We're going to run out of farm kids. But if we build this teaching center, these kids are going to get exposed to jobs. And what people don't realize is, there was 15 of us went out and raised $3.5 million. Private money. That's not tax dollars. That's private money. And now, 17 years later, 20 years later, 5 full-time teachers, and they were just recognized as the best vocational agriculture program in the United States.
Yeah.
But
really
but
cool.
it's not about that honor. It's about teaching kids where the careers are.
And
So that's been my fun because you work with great people. We were talking about working the board of supervisors on projects. You meet people, you learn how government works, and you navigate your way through problems, and then people, they want their resources to do good.
Well, and that's the one thing, you know, you talk about the entrepreneurship, and what always amazes me, you know, I was on the board at the History and Industry Center for quite a long time.
Right, same thing.
And what always amazes me is we went from lumber to muscle. And that was just because a random guy in Beppel in Germany looked at a map and went, hey, it looks like because of the curve, a bunch of mussels might land. That's like literally how it started, right? Yeah. And then it transitions from that into, you know, the post-World War II stuff of the HNIs, you know, the original Han stuff and the GPC going private from the, and CBI and who am I missing? Carver, you know, a little bit later. And what always, I think people miss we're entrepreneurial around the horn. What I want to know, and this is nothing against Han GPC, they're great.
Right.
But I want to know, what are we going to do next?
That's a good question.
Right. Yes, I absolutely want to take care of those, and they're great. Like, take nothing away from them.
Right.
But I also want us thinking about,
Yeah.
we're looking at the future from 2025.
Yep.
You know, when Han started, they said, hey, we're going to have a bunch of guys coming back from the war. They're going to need jobs. So we're going to learn how to bend metal and make a cap. Right.
That's right.
I mean, it was a recipe card box first, whatever. But what are we doing today? There's all the tech out there. There's all this other stuff that we're more than capable of doing.
It's really fun to dream about that.
That's the stuff. Those are the conversations out.
I think a lot of times you don't know what the next thing is until the next thing happens.
You got to build the next thing.
Yeah, but I think somebody, it seems like somebody always steps up in that next thing because technology and the times change.
But I also want kids to know, people started with nothing. I want a Heinz museum, and this is the best story that's untold. We're out at the barn, and we had people from the Lutheran homes came out, and out at the barn, you get them up on the elevator, and we're having a picnic, and the staff went over and got them Dairy Queen, and I was getting stories out of them, and I ran into a family, Jim and Marion Finley, because I wanted to work on Heinz history, and so I said to Jim, "Do you ever grow vegetables for Heinz?" There was this lady that I couldn't get her to talk. And when I said Heinz, she sits up on the edge of the chair and says, "Can I tell you a Heinz story?" Oh. And I go, "Well, yeah." Okay, so she had an older brother that was quite a bit older than her, Ed Maher, and he started in the plant when they were still using horses. He was shoveling manure. And stayed with, he knew Henry and Henry's son, Howard, the next one. I mean, he knew these people. And they liked him because he worked. And people that work go places. And so anyhow, he stayed with the company. He did a couple other jobs, but stayed with the company, worked his way through management here, and managed this plant. And she said they sent him to Pittsburgh, and I think he was president of the company. And it was all true. I'd never heard of the guy, but it was all true. But I want every fifth grader in Muscatine to hear that story.
Yeah.
That's a story. And actually, he wasn't president because John Heinz was the figurehead. He was still alive. But Ed Maher went from the stables in Muscatine over at the plant we have now to running the international operation that was on every continent except Antarctica in the world. And he was running. These are good stories.
Do you fear that now there's not another Stein or Kent's or Carver or them families to take us into more history where everybody's trying to get out of Muscatine now? Or do you feel that's coming back again?
I think people appreciate history, and boomers, people my age, I like tourism too, and they'll come to Muscatine for any kind of history. And before we started, we talked about the Alexander Clark story, and that's another big tourism. That doesn't address what Chris was saying about what's the next entrepreneur, but that guy was an entrepreneur. He started as a cutting, he came from Pennsylvania, and he was cutting wood for riverboats, and he made himself an honest living, and that got him in the good graces with the white people here, and he was their barbers, and that's how he changed law in the state of Iowa over that court case with his daughter in school. So entrepreneurs are powerhouse people.
Sound like out of Muscatine. So
anyhow,
Muscatine had some good history.
That's why I like these projects. So,
are you working on any projects right now that you're not telling us about? That's going to be the next.
He always has
next trifecta, or
I want a Heinz museum, and I have a vision for it. So my last paying job was I taught GED out at the college. And one day I was sitting there with Naomi DeWinter, who's a great leader. We have great leaders in town right now. And
thank you.
I'm serious. We got a climate of leadership and working together that I don't know that it's ever been any better. And I'm sincere. And I know because I go to all these meetings. But anyhow,
I would agree with that. And I'll say we still want more milk in the glass.
I think it all started on Two Chicks and a Chris to get this kind of
lined
up.
That's right. But anyhow, I was sitting there talking to Naomi, and when they refurbished the McAvoy Center, they were hoping to bring master's programs to that building. And then with inline studying, they just couldn't get the university to come and do it. So that building is underutilized, in my opinion. So the history of that property was Henry Hines, I have the certificate when it transferred, he bought it from the Weed estate that owned all that land out there in 1908. And then when they were done growing vegetables on it, they gave it to the community for school.
I remember the Heinz.
And it was
Field
Heinz
that
Field
was there.
for
Sure, it was
years.
Heinz Field. They gave, Heinz Company gave land, mall property for Colorado School. People that worked at Heinz's, that's quite a legacy to stop and think about.
Yeah.
But I said, let's put a Heinz museum in that lobby of that. You're sitting here on Heinz soil. And she's a yes person. She says, we got to figure out a way to do that.
Hey, why don't you have Chris draw it up, kind of like you did the building out
It'd
at...
be like a big bottle of ketchup.
Well, that's what one of the
I like
women
it.
at the chamber said. Once you get that Heinz museum opened up, then you have a 20-foot tower with a thing of French fries on it and a great big bottle of ketchup poured into it.
Yeah.
But that's such a big part of our legacy here, and people just don't always make the connection. It was actually the Hoops family on the island growing vegetables that brought Henry Heinz here. They knew him in Pittsburgh. We got to tell these stories. So I bet you didn't know that, did you?
We did
No,
not
sir,
know
I did
that.
not.
So
We just-
I will say this. There's not very often that these two actually sit quietly and listen.
Well,
Like, I mean,
We're
they'll sit
learning.
quietly
We're
every
learning
once in a
right
while.
now.
But
We're learning. We're just.
I
I'm still
love
on
these
French
little known
fries.
stories. And actually, one of your city employees, your county, but Joanne Carlson worked at the library, and she wants to do another book on the little known stories of Muscatine.
So when we make this museum for these to tell these stories, recently I took the grandkids to the Arch in St. Louis, and they got the museum down in the basement of the Arch, and then they got these little touch screens that you can it'll show you how those careers for those specific jobs would come up. But you click the button and it'd tell you the whole story. You'd watch a video. That's what we need to do when we make this.
And our Heinz operation isn't canning local vegetables, but between that and the distribution center, it's still a major employer here. And we don't have to pay for that with Muscatine money. We can go to Heinz Foundation in Pittsburgh and they'll pay for that damn.
Yes, but that building is how old now? You ever fear that with the age of it that it's
No,
a couple of years from leaving, or
No.
the McAvoy Center? That's
McAvoy
no?
Center.
I'm talking about Heinz, the main.
I think the day will come where that might transition out there, but not since they invest all that money on the distribution center. I don't see it going anywhere in the next 2 decades.
Good.
Who knows? It's been bought again, and Berkshire Hathaway owns
Warren Buffett own it right now, or
owns Kraft. That
Yeah.
there's 4 layers in between, but that plant is such a part of Muscatine history. Anybody that's had a family here for multiple generations, somebody had something to do with the vegetable production or work.
Well, I think just alone in that museum, whether you talk about our lumber, you talk about our mussels, you talk about Kent Feeds and Carver Pump, we'd have a story that you would spend half the day there getting.
Well, we have that already.
Yeah,
Danny.
it's
It's
in
the
there.
Pearl Buck Museum just down the street.
Yeah,
But
The only thing that's not in there is Heinz. All those ones you listed off, you got the whole second floor up there.
Yeah.
But imagine tying them all together where he said the Heinz Field.
Well, yeah. Well, but everybody wants us to use downtown,
Well,
so
I see 2 more museums in the coming decade, and that'd be a Heinz Museum and the Alexander Clark. I just think that's going to happen. So that's the answer to the question.
That saves Muscatine.
what was the question? Did we?
Well-
was there actually a question at the top of all that?
No,
There might have
you
been.
talked about me dabbling in these projects.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh, we went all the way back to that. Holy cow!
I'm still on French fries.
I got one more Heinz story that this is fun. So when Henry Heinz, he was here a lot. Dick McLean's
Henry was the CEO, the main founder.
Yeah, but this was the second plant. So he was hands-on when they built that plant in
H.J. Heinz.
1892. They built the plant. Their first season in pickles was 1893. In 1894, they started ketchup, and they quit canning pickles in the 80s, but they're still making ketchup. But anyhow, he was here a lot. and Dick McLean's grandfather got hired to build the plant. And he says, yeah, Grandma used to say, and they lived on site. Monroe Street came through, and there were still houses there. And he said, I have this on tape. Dick said, yeah, Grandma'd say, the phone would ring. Okay, Esther, this is Henry. I'm going to be in town next week, and I'm expecting a chicken dinner. I mean, and then the other thing that they had a celebration for what they called it Founders Day. So Henry Hines died in 1919, and the world was kind of in turmoil because of the war. And so they didn't do anything to honor. So for what would have been his 80th birthday, they threw a Founders Day. And he was buddies with Westinghouse. And by then they were in 60 locations on 3 continents. And so they threw a golden day. And so the people in Muscatine had a party at the hotel. At the same time, the people in London, at Glasgow, Toronto, all these sites around the world, and listened to speeches at the same time and on that golden day. And I was at the archivist in Pittsburgh at their museum, and that archivist didn't know that story. So, I mean, this is good stuff. We were a huge part of Heinz' success, Heinz International.
So when is the museum coming?
I don't have time to work on it.
You're on the spot. No. You hold on. You don't get to come on Two Chicks and Chris, throw out an idea like that, and then I just pull it off.
Spot.
Here's how I would like it to happen. We need a champion, and I'm going to speak for somebody that's a great leader. But Chris Bohr, who was the money lady at Monsanto and helped with that museum, and she's retired now, but she grew up on a tomato farm down where the Kent operation was going down there. Her dad's still on the property, and she does great community leadership, and she partners with a woman named Brenda. And they do all that riverfront stuff, and I'm going to try to turn it over to them.
We're trying to get them on the show, so this is good information to be a champion.
They're remarkable leaders, and just because they both retired, I don't think they're done serving Muscatine. So, and you know, I need to interview her dad about the migrant work, but I'd never get to it. So, anyhow.
So Chris is going to get the museum started, and you're going to be the chairman, right?
I don't need another job. I just need.
I don't need another job.
I've got the idea, and I can tell them how to finance it without spending all Muscatine money. But then you got to have a committee. Chris will bring the right people together, and it'll just happen.
Sound like they need your knowledge though to make it.
Well, I know how it weaves together.
Yeah, so you've been in a lot of projects over the years, and
I've enjoyed every one because you meet great people. But you also have to learn how government works, because if you're building the ag center on city property, you got to figure all that out. If you're doing the fish hatchery out on county property and you're trying to tap into historic preservation, you get to work with the county people. And you know, our public I'm on my soapbox, but our public employees at the federal level are taking a big hit right now, very unjustly. You know, they're firing people that are dedicated servants. And I'm going to tell you, I've worked with a lot of government employees at the state level, county level, and city level. And our staff, you know, the people that work that you're talking about their pay, these are dedicated people because they're trying to make a better life for their nieces, nephews, moms, dads. And I just think public employees need to be appreciated every day. Well, that's my story.
So
I just sent
big
Chris a text,
raises,
so we'll work.
Big raises. I did hear that.
Well, you just need to appreciate and show appreciation.
Well, I thank you. Keep my taxes down.
I'm trying, bro. I'm trying.
Yeah. But what is today? The 16th. So we got 10 days until it's going to be aired Friday. So this is the 18th. We're going.
What math are you trying to do?
His event at the
on
hatchery.
the 26th.
Yeah, Saturday the 26th.
And that's my 55th birthday. So
55th.
that'd be
It'll start at about 9 o'clock, and people will
I'll have to
gather.
stop out for my birthday. We got a cake.
If you
bring
tell
the
me
cake.
you're coming, we'll have a birthday cake for you.
Yep.
All right.
And then can he bring his fishing pole?
Yes, he can.
He needs a fish in the hatchery. That's the only way.
You can't. No,
That's the only way
you
he's
can't
catching
put-
fish.
you
There
can't
ain't
put any hooks.
there aren't any mature
can
fish in
there,
the
but you
ponds
can't
right
put any
now.
hooks.
Okay. You brought up something. I got to throw one last crazy story that happened at our house over the last week and a half. Wyatt has a friend who stayed the weekend with us because his parents were out of town. And you talked about the pickle, right? Have you ever seen a kid scared of pickles?
No.
Like legitimately scared of pickles? Kid's awesome. Great kid. I'm not making fun of him. I swear to God.
Why is he scared?
But
of a
he's
pickle?
legitimately scared of pickles. I mean, like I mess with him and put a pickle in a Ziploc bag and toss it on the pillow while we were sleeping? Yes, I did. But I've never seen that before. But thinking about that, I'm like, maybe we could like help him get through that by taking him to a Heinz museum that you're going to get made, and he could become comfortable with pickles.
There you go.
Or again,
It's the craziest thing. And he's like, it's a legitimate, like and again, this is a kid you would never like, just awesome. But
We
So,
did
like,
a nice
some-
display out at the barn, and of course, the people in town gave us sacks and sacks of pickle pins. And I remember when they expanded the pickle operation in the '60s. Dad took us through it. We got a pickle pin. That when you're a little kid, that's fun.
oh, that's incredible. Pickle pin.
oh, you know what? We could also put on their plate Heinz, or well, no, that was Oscar Mayer had the Wienermobile.
Oh yeah,
Maybe we should get a pickle.
Yes.
I like it.
Pickle mobile.
pickle mobile.
Would
Why don't you just say you're right?
You can-
Would
we
the
could-
pickle
I'll let-
mobile fit through the roundabout?
I'll let you be the driver of the
Okay, Paul.
pickle mobile.
Everybody does this. Roundabouts, yay or nay?
I like roundabout.
You like it?
Hey.
Would you drive the pickle mobile through the roundabout?
Oh, I think I could.
Okay.
You don't.
How
you
do-
don't want. You don't want to be around when I'm driving. It's getting pretty scary.
True statement. True statement. I've seen it.
So how's your approach? What do you think the correct approach is? Like, I was late to the show because I got
Yeah.
stuck in it.
Well,
He jumps over the thing in the
when
middle.
you approach it, start watching traffic, and know that you're not supposed to stop unless you have to yield for somebody, and make darn sure you know which road you're getting off, and then don't stop.
Go, baby, go.
Go, baby, go.
I still have stop sign in my head.
I know you do.
You ever stop in the roundabout?
I did actually
Yeah.
about 2 weeks ago because somebody stopped in front of me, and I would have totally rear-ended.
Like, I'm coming down second, and I'm in the roundabout,
Uh-huh.
almost to where Mississippi Drive comes on, and he sped up. And
Where exactly was the car on the roof at?
yeah, where's
Oh, so it was
Flickinger Center?
Yeah, actually, just down towards the river from Flickinger. So if you're seeing this on Friday, of course, this is going to be not breaking news, obviously. But yeah, there was a car in the block of city or the courthouse in between courthouse and that parking lot that, where there used to be buildings and put the parking lot just
Yeah.
to the riverside of Flickinger, right in the middle of the block. In the middle of the street, there was a car flip. I happened to be at
Somebody was obviously running a
Maybe-
fairly good rate of speed.
well, yeah,
Maybe
that's
they
what we
were
couldn't
looking
figure out.
at
So
the copper roof and got out of control.
probably. So I was at Jamie
Shine the
Boston's.
sun off the copper roof.
Yeah, the sun hitting the copper got him.
Well, I was at Jamie's law office because I was doing some stuff for him, and we were looking out one of their windows, and like it was literally right there, and we're like, "How? That's a car!" And there was an ambulance, and it looked. I mean, and again, you're seeing this way later. It looked like everybody was mostly okay. Like it didn't seem crazy. But what we couldn't figure out is like it's in the middle of the block, and it's not a huge block. Like, how do you get going fast enough to get a vehicle on its top? Like at first, I thought it looked like a group of guys maybe came out of the courthouse mat and flipped
Flipped
the car over, but it was like legitimately out in the middle, like on the yellow line. So I'm sure by the time everybody sees
Crazy.
this,
We
they're
hope
like, Chris,
everybody's
here's
all
exactly
right.
what happened. We all know.
We should take a demo car and try to recreate that. I don't even know how that would happen.
I'm not going to try and flip a car.
Yeah, we need some video footage of this.
Yeah. Why the
That's
city's
just
got
not-
cameras everywhere. Why didn't they have
The
one
middle
there?
of the block, a car's on its roof with traffic on both sides.
Hey, you need to see if the cameras at Flickinger picked it up.
Yeah,
Ooh, yeah.
we need to see
Oh,
footage of this. Can you get this on the air?
We'll call Nikki at the Flickinger Center
Yeah.
and tell her to check the cameras.
Yeah.
But anyway, and again, everybody that's watching this, guys, that was 2 days ago.
All right.
Old news.
Well, we
Back-
hope people come out, and
Yeah.
the weather's supposed to be nice. Just come enjoy the river and walk. And if you want to learn a little history or tell lies about fishing, Danny, or
So basically, just like
Whatever.
everything else.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice to see you guys.
Thank you, Paul,
Thank
for
you.
coming
Thanks
on
for
the
coming,
show.
Paul.
We loved all your knowledge. You did teach us stuff. That was very interesting on the pine stuff that you just see it, smell it. You don't ever think about all the history.
Yep,
And
yep.
Muscatine's so used to it, but there's a ton of history there.
So we've been ending the show with "We Are Muscatine." So you got to look at the camera and tell them that we are Muscatine.
Okay.
No.
Say when. We
When.
are Muscatine.
That's a wrap on this episode of Two Chicks and a Chris. Make sure to follow, subscribe, and tell your friends, especially if they live in Muscatine and like questionable opinions. We'll catch you next time on Two Chicks and a Chris, where